Hello, welcome back to Pig's Ear Interview here at the Tojo Dojo, one of the only places we're talking about where we're playing games and movies and reading things. I'm Myshtuff, joined by the enigmatic, lovely Riku Rose, as always. How you doing?
I've never been described that way, but I'm very good, thank you.
I'm trying to up the adjectives every single time here just to get more and more, absurd.
This will soon be the favourite podcast or YouTube series across universities everywhere.
Oh, yeah, we're going to be everywhere after this one. This is the one where we go viral, I promise. So if you haven't watched before, make sure to comment and like and subscribe. We've been doing these pretty consistently for a while now, and we like to hear what people think about them and talking about, what we've been getting into lately. So today's agenda is we're going to go over Live a Live. I've also heard Live Alive. Maybe you'll get into that in a minute of the proper pronunciation.
We won't.
All right, good. So say it however the hell you want. And then a movie that I watched, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, and we can start talking about the game.
Okay, Live a Live. So it's a Square Enix JRPG from the SNES. First time it's ever been released in America.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm pretty big fan of JRPGs, especially like Square Enix. I'd probably say that's like my favorite genre, favorite company. I didn't know this game existed until the Nintendo Direct where it was announced.
Yeah, because it was like an old Super Nintendo game or something. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just like, wait, what? How have I never heard of this? You normally see like those lists where it's like top games we want like released in the West and stuff like that. Might have seen it on some lists, but it isn't something that's stuck in my mind ever.
Yeah.
So the idea of it is, I think it's 8 stories in total.
Mm-hmm.
Just off the bat, I have played this for 12 hours. This is not like a full review of the full game, like including the ending or anything like that. I just want it off the bat. I have played it for 12 hours. I have not finished it.
Okay. Do you know roughly how much into the game that is?
So I did some Googling, and it says it's about a 25 to 30 hour game.
Okay.
So I'd say about halfway. But I'll get into something in a sec, because so that's it. There's about 8 stories, and they're all set during different time periods, right? So you select what character you want to play. Like, do you want to be a cowboy in the Old West? Do you want to be like a samurai in like Edo, Japan?
Oh, like really different, like type of
do you want to be
things.
a caveman? Do you want to be a kid with telekinesis in the future? There's like one where you can play as like a monk in like old China.
Okay.
Like passing on his wisdom.
Nice.
I can't think of the others off the top of my head that I mean. Oh, and there's like a modern day one, which is like a weird like Mortal Kombat knockoff. Like not knockoff, but like spoof.
Oh, okay. So it's still a JRPG. Like all of these are. It's still the same game.
All the
style.
battles is like it's weird because you know how like every like Square Enix JRPG does like the turn-based combat in a slightly different way.
Right.
This one is like you're on a square grid and you move around, kind of half tactics, half time-based battle.
Oh yeah, kind of. I mean, granted, tactics I haven't necessarily played either, but I think that makes me think
like
of
Fire
Emblem. Yeah, exactly.
So it's half that, because you have a little bar. So every time you move, everyone's bars move a little. So if you just run around in a circle, everyone else just can attack you. So you've got to be like precise about how often you walk and stuff like that. Okay. But because it's all these different sort of jobs, like a cowboy, a monk, a samurai, and stuff like that.
Sure.
All the abilities you use are slightly different as well.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so like when you're a gunslinger, obviously like you don't have to be close to people, you can just like shoot them from a distance.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're just like a street fighter in modern day, you've got to get close and like attack them and stuff like that. When you're the telekinesis guy, you're more like using status effects on people.
Yeah, so it's not just all like cosmetic changes or something. There's actually like functional differences a little bit too.
Yeah. So each of the stories are wildly different. So the first one I did was the modern day one because I'm like, well, I'll just start with modern day because I know modern day, and we'll see how it goes, and I'll work from there, decide what I want to do. And I legit beat that story in about half an hour.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And I was like, okay. And there's like no walking around on a world map or anything. It's literally fight after fight after fight, right?
Interesting.
And I'm like, okay, that's a bit not what I was expecting. I was expecting like a full JRPG, okay?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, cowboys are cool. I'll do the cowboy step one, right? And then I beat that in like an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like I was really enjoying that, and it's kind of over just before it even got started.
Weird. All right.
Yeah,
Seeing a
and I'm
pattern
like,
here.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, right. So then I go on to the like next one. I think the next one I did was like the ninja storyline, and that one was a bit longer. That probably took me like 2.5 hours.
I mean, are you just
Right?
really good at it, or no? It's just super short.
I think it's just really short. I mean, there were obviously little paths that you could go off. More in the ninja one, where you could
Mm-hmm.
go and do other little bits or like, go in different directions that I kind of just ignored.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you couldn't do anything in the modern day fighter one. The cowboy one was pretty linear and straightforward as well. They actually have a time limit on that one as well because it's like, oh, the bad guys are coming at dawn. We got to get everything ready.
All right.
So they're like, you got to hurry up and do everything as quick as you can.
Yeah.
Right. Um, and that's my issue with this game is like, when this came out, a lot of these were probably novelty ideas, like a Wild West JRPG.
Sure.
But there has been Wild West JRPGs since.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
sure this was like really cool and really different because back in the SNES days, like the majority of JRPGs were like old, like Lords of the Rings fantasy style, right?
Exactly.
And I just kind of, this feels more like an experiment than like a full game.
Okay.
From back in the day where they were like, oh, what if we turn the genre on its head? But in the last 30 years, the genre has been turned on its head many, 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 many times.
And is this where, at least from what you can tell so far, are all the different characters like interconnected in some way, or do you think they will be, or?
So the fact that I've only got one story left to do, and apparently 15 hours of game left, my theory is that it's all going to come together at the end in some way.
Okay.
Right, but that's still like half of the game where it just feels like you're playing a tutorial.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, because every story you start, you're essentially learning that character, learning how you play that in that world, different quirks about it, and I feel like I'm not. So certain characters you can't even level up.
Okay.
So it'd be like for instance, it'd be like, oh, the cowboys are level 7, right? Don't matter how many battles you do, he doesn't level up. You can't grind or anything. There's no progression whatsoever. But then you're the ninja, and like, oh yeah, he's leveling up, and you got to grind a little bit so you can beat the bosses. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, that seems like it's like I don't want to say it's a tech demo, but they're like just trying a bunch of different things is how
Yeah,
it comes off, and they're just yeah, like you said, it's an experiment. They're just trying things, but maybe it doesn't cohesively come together as much.
and it's a shame because like I think we should be able to play every game. So I am a big proponent of like preservation and stuff like
Sure,
that. Like
sure.
I think we should be able to play everything in current day. I think it's a shame when games get stuck on systems, stuck in different countries, and there's
Yeah,
no viable way to play them. Right, back
sure.
catalogs just being lost to time, locked
Right.
to systems that you can't play anymore. Like how many DS games can't you play because you need 2 screens and they
Sure,
can't be
sure.
ported. And I'm glad it came out this game on the Switch. I don't think I'd recommend it though.
Like, I mean, are you going to finish it?
I think I'm going to keep going with it because, as I said, if it all does come together like at the end and stuff like that, but I can't turn around and say to people like, "Oh, you should play this game that's a 15-hour tutorial for an ending," even if the ending's great and stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's like those it's I feel like it's similar to a lot of people say, "Oh, just watch a show for 15 episodes and you'll get it then." And but it's like if you're not captivated in maybe
Yeah,
the first episode or two, that's like unfair to the person. You're expecting
yeah.
that much of them almost.
Yeah, yeah, it's a strange game. I get it. When it came out, it probably wasn't strange. It
Yeah,
was probably cool and quirky because you're like, wow, can you imagine like being a ninja in a JRPG when like the only other thing about was like Shinobi and like Ninja Gaiden and things like that,
yeah,
right?
hmm,
And I'm sure that was really really cool. But even Square Enix's mainline Final Fantasies
right,
since this came out, like Final Fantasy VII is essentially like cyberpunk.
yeah,
You know,
hmm,
like Final Fantasy 18 is futuristic. Like,
yeah. It's not really a novel concept anymore.
no, exactly, and that's the shame of it is if this had come out in the West the same time it did in Japan,
Hmm.
I bet I would have played it and loved it a lot more than I do.
Well, that's
It,
interesting because I wonder if the people, even if people played the original and they're playing this again, but maybe from Japan, playing this remaster. I guess it's a remaster. It's not like a remake, right?
yeah, well, it's that HD 2D
Yeah, okay.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm curious if there's people who did grow up with it and they're playing this again. I'm going to assume they probably love it again. But yeah, if you didn't grow up with it, like to be honest, like in a weird way, this is a little bit akin to liking Shenmue for me because for people who grew up with it, like probably still
Mhm.
enjoy it, but then if you tried introducing it to a new person, they'd be like, yeah, there's RPGs that have advanced way past this, like why would you go back to this potentially? And I know they're wildly different games, but like it's that same thing of like I think you're always going to have that trouble if you bring something from the past back with a remake, remaster, whatever. It's just unless you massively change something, I guess it's just always going to be a problem, I suppose.
I mean, they add things like voice acting and stuff like that, but to modernize it. But the issue is more with how it's structured.
Hmm.
As I said, it feels like you're
Yeah,
just playing tutorial after tutorial after tutorial, and that isn't fun. The fun part of a game is once you're out of the tutorial
sure.
and like the game
Well,
opens up.
what about I mean I know I didn't play this game, but for like Octopath Traveler, I'm seeing like elements of this in the sense that you have like these 8 characters, and granted maybe that story connected better, but like whenever you switched characters in Octopath, was that like doing a tutorial over and over again?
I never played Oxford.
Oh, I thought you said you no, you played Project Triangle Strategy. That's
Yeah,
the
that
one
was
you played, right?
yeah,
Or no?
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry, I'm getting my ridiculous JRPG names mixed up. Never mind. Okay, I thought you played Octopath, but
No,
I'm curious though because that concept of like the 8 characters and you're doing different things just sounds familiar. But granted, even that I'm sure they modernized it, and that's a new JRPG, right? So like I'm sure
yeah,
they did it well and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, and also
So
as well, I think modern day most people kind of know it's not even that it's teaching you how to play the game. It just feels like the story's always beginning,
hmm,
and they don't really have an end. Like it'd be like, oh, this is happening. You're like, whoa, and then it's over before it even really gets started.
hmm. That's a shame.
Which
But I
is
mean, even to your
yeah.
point, even if the end wraps it up, like it's just not worth it at that point.
But I tell you what would have been better, I think, is if they'd like picked an order that you play in rather than you can play as any 8 and actually structure the story to
Hmm.
play out in a linear fashion. Because then
Yeah.
it connects earlier and it doesn't all feel like a tutorial. Because the fact that I
Hmm.
can either play as the monk in China or the cowboy at the same time means they have to structure the game in such a way that either of those could be my first choice.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess that's always. I mean, once again, to your point, it was an experiment, and probably after the fact, I'm sure they're going like, maybe we should have made this a little bit more linear. Like they could have still switched up the styles and all that, but if they just did it in a more structured fashion, yeah, maybe it would have had more impact than at that point. So, but to your point, we've had many RPGs since that probably have perfected that formula now. So it's just more an artifact of the time that it came out more than anything, I guess.
Yeah, and what I don't really get as well is that all the reviews are like nines
Really.
for this. Yeah, and I'm like, yes, it's great that this classic JRPG came out, but you're telling me this is one of the best games of the year to come out?
That's a good point, because I feel like with remasters, sort of remakes, you almost have to, once again, unless they substantially change something, you almost have to like grade it on a curve a little bit in some
Yeah,
fashion, because like, yeah, it almost seems unfair to, in a sense, I guess.
yeah. I'm just thinking of like some of the remakes or remasters that have come out recently, because that seems to be like
Mhm.
all that anyone plays, right? Because that's all that gets
Yeah.
released these days. But like, there's been remakes and remasters that have done less that I've enjoyed more. You know, even if they just spruce up the graphics a little and like that's
Hmm.
it. But
Sure.
I feel like those games adapt to modern day a bit better.
Sure.
I feel like I'm in the match. You know, when you play a game and you just feel like you're missing something or not getting the point, or
Yeah.
like you're watching a show that everyone raves about, and you're just like, what's so great
Yeah.
about this?
Like I don't get
Yeah, that's
it.
kind of how I feel. I feel like I must be missing something because everyone else seems to be loving it.
Hmm.
I don't
I
know.
mean, it could be the novelty too of just the fact that this has never come out before here. And yeah, maybe I'm wondering in another couple months if that is going to fade and if it'll actually be a long-lasting game that people are going to want to come back to again. And I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, some things just don't click. I mean,
Well,
even if you love the genre.
well, the way I look at it is any game, if you're on a 10-point scale, a website, and you rate a game a 9 out of 10, right?
Hmm.
When Game of the Year talk comes around, that has to be considered,
I would assume so. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Now, I didn't play either of these games, but like you played Elden Ring,
Hmm.
you played Horizon Forbidden West,
Hmm.
things like that. Like, is this game seriously going to be like in the same conversation
Yeah.
as those? You know, and that's you've put it up there with them at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like, and granted, you could of course have. I know there's different categories where you could maybe have best JRPG or best action or whatever. I could maybe potentially see it in one of those categories, depending on what else comes out this year. But as far as to your point, like a true game of the year, there's no way in hell, especially this year. Like, not just with Elden Ring, but like even God of War coming out and like all that stuff. So there's no way. I can't imagine.
just wait for Jeff to announce "Live a Live," the
Or maybe
Gillette Game of the Year.
or it'll get that, what's that other award they do, like best direction or something, that like I
Yes,
still have no idea what that means.
yeah, yeah,
So but I will say though, what I guess I have appreciated in a general sense though is over the last however many directs there have been more like Japan exclusive stuff that they are starting to port over, which is
yeah.
cool to see, to your point, like the preservation and getting people experiences. So I'm, even if I'm not going to play this particular type of game, I'm glad that they're starting to get the hint of like, oh, people want this stuff to be just literally just translate it. You don't have to update a single damn thing. Just translate it like
Hmm.
officially. And I think people would be appreciative. So I hope they keep doing that. Like, even if you don't like this game and I don't think I'm going to play it, I'm glad that they're doing it.
I I don't dislike it. That's the
Hmm.
issue. I don't dislike it. I don't like it. It exists. That's the that's how I feel.
It happened.
It happened. Like, here's the thing, right? Rating thumbs down. Like,
It,
I don't feel like I can tell people go buy this game
sure.
and play 15 hours in the hope that it all ties up together at the end, right?
Yeah.
Even if I had played it all the way through and it ties up beautifully in the end, and I have a really good last 15 hours, I still don't think you should tell people go and have 15 hours of a not too enjoyable game, right?
Hmm.
But I don't think it's bad.
Hmm.
I'm not. I've had this game for since it came out now for about a month, and I've played it for
Hmm.
13 hours, right?
Hmm.
Like, when Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, I beat that in 6 days, and that was
Hmm.
30 hours long. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel compelled to pick up my Switch and play this all the time. You know those games where you feel like you need to beat them and you kind of have to force yourself to play them?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been
That's
there.
what I'm doing with this, you know.
Yeah.
And you're like, why don't I just play something else? But there's that part of your brain that goes, no, you got to beat that. You got to beat that.
Come on, you can't be a disappointment to all of your fellow gamers. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I get what you mean about like you're just kind of missing something, because that happened to me earlier in the year. I don't know if you remember when I talked about Tokyo Vice, where by like all accounts I should have loved that show. Like the setting, the decade that it takes place, the story, and then 3 episodes in, I stopped watching, and everyone else is giving this like rave reviews too, and I'm like, am I missing something? Because this is the most boring damn show I've ever watched, and so I totally get what you mean. Where like sometimes you should like something, but it just for whatever reason doesn't click. So I totally understand what you mean by that. So.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, sad to say, but a thumbs down.
That's a shame. It happens. It happens, folks. On occasion, we talk about things that aren't just our thing. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Only a few death threats, please.
Yeah. Just a couple this week. We'll tone it down this time. Well, cool. All right. So I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once. First comment, the name. I gotta say, so I do like this movie very much. And there is a reason. I mean, this sounds stupid to say. There's a reason why it's called that. Like, obviously, every movie's going to have that. But, like, there's a very particular, I'll say, thematic reason for why it's called that. But even regardless of that, just the name is such a mouthful. Mm-hmm. I wish they would have come up with, like, a snappier name, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, the movie's done well, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been critically received very, very well. Commercially, I mean, I think it's done fine. I mean, I don't know if it's like blown it. Yeah, I don't know if it's like blown every expectation where it's made 8 times the amount back or something like that. But it's done for sure, done pretty well.
So on a $25 million budget, it's done 100 million.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's pretty sizable return then at that point. But yeah, this movie is, so if I'm not mistaken, it's an A24 movie as well. And usually what happens for most A24 movies, they very much have got my attention, where almost anything they put out I'm going to enjoy to some extent. Like I think there may be 1 or 2 that I didn't, but even if I don't enjoy their movies, there's usually like a commonality between all of them of there's just an interesting idea, which I always love to see. Just that creativity, just trying something new, basically.
Well, I think I said to you about Bullet Train last week. Like, it seemed like that movie that everyone would have had on DVD in like 2005. Yeah. And I feel like that with like A24 movies, like they're movies that would have been like smaller budget, would have been like in the theaters, made $100 million, and then everyone would have bought it on DVD.
Yeah, very much so. So this movie was interesting for another reason, which is, for whatever reason, I just decided for this movie I wasn't going to look up anything about it. And I didn't watch trailers, I didn't look up synopses of it, but I knew, given A24, and it was also starring Michelle Yeoh, who I just really enjoy. I think she's a great actress. I was like, I know I'm going to watch this at some point, so I'm not going to go in knowing absolutely anything. And I'm glad I did, because it surprised me. I guess I'm going to talk a little bit about it. I'm not just going to end the discussion right now. Like, all right, thumbs up, see ya. But because I do want to obviously talk about it, but it's the best way I can describe this movie is it's a like kung fu multiverse family drama.
I mean, I'm intrigued.
Like, that's honestly the best way I can describe it. So like the premise, really, once again, without trying to give too much away, is it starts off with Michelle Yeoh's character. She owns she's a Chinese immigrant with her husband, and they own a laundromat, and they are kind of struggling financially, and you could tell she's kind of having to do a lot for her husband and herself, and they have a daughter, and so and an aging her father like came over from China to live with them, and so it's this very kind of close-knit sort of family, but also like super hectic because of the business, and they're trying to understand financial issues and stuff like that. And so honestly, the first part of the movie is so unbelievably frantic. Like, I almost was like having a panic attack watching it, because it was just so many things happening of like showing how her life was so frantic. But I mean, it sets it up like thematically really well. Like, okay, so did you watch, I think you said you've watched this, but did you watch Uncut Gems?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, also A24, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what I was thinking while you were saying it, is just how stressful the whole movie is.
Yeah, like you're just like biting your nails watching it the whole time. It's kind of like that feel, not the entire movie, but kind of just the first part to really set up like just how crazy shit is. So what's interesting though is it starts off like a normal kind of family drama, like talking about it, and it's very like culturally about Chinese families, and so like they did a good job about like showing that basically. And so then what happens is they have this meeting essentially with the IRS, if I'm not mistaken, to go over their financial issues and tax stuff. And then I didn't realize this, but Jamie Lee Curtis is in the movie as like the
Mm-hmm.
IRS tax accountant, like just randomly. I'm like, what the fuck? I like just wasn't expecting that. And so from that point on, it starts turning into like literally it's like I wish Doctor Strange did their multiverse stuff as well as this movie did it, because like with like, and it's funny that they both came out this year, because with Doctor Strange I feel like my issue with it a little bit was they touted this multiverse stuff but they really didn't do anything with it. It was like, yeah,
Wait,
they had
whoa,
that
whoa, whoa!
once.
The pizzas were round.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I completely forgot. Sorry.
Yeah.
uh, like it was interesting because I watched that movie and they had, I know there's the scene where like Doctor Strange is floating through like all
Mm-hmm.
the multiverses and he's like changing left and right, and obviously you have a character that comes in here and there, but really they didn't do a whole lot with the multiverse, which was like
No.
the biggest disappointment for me with that movie. And so when I started understanding like, oh, this is like some weird something happens where multiverses start getting involved, I'm like, okay, let's see if they how they're going to do it. And they, I think, did a really good job with it because they showed these other universes of these different characters, like alternate versions of certain characters, new characters, whatever. Some of them were very serious, and then there were others that were like having me crying laughing at how stupid they were, like purposefully, like just ridiculous
Yeah.
how they were. And so I think that's where this movie, on one hand, it's good because they were showing like a wide range of these different universes for the central thread of the story, which once again I'm not going to spoil what that is, but there was some very much comedic, like ridiculously comedic stuff going on in this movie that I was like, oh, wow, I was not expecting it to do that at all. But then what's good from like a tonal perspective, they had some very serious drama stuff too for like why they're doing this essentially. And I think what the best part about it was like with the Marvel Doctor Strange stuff, the multiverse stuff was like, ooh, look at this, it's cool, flashy. Like there wasn't really whole lot of meat behind it, but with this the
Mm-hmm.
multiverse piece is very much part of the story. Like there is a reason for why it's happening and it ties back into that central family drama again. So it was just very just like unique and weird, and like I just was not expecting it. And then like I said, there's just randomly like kung fu fights throughout the entire
Yeah.
movie.
You know what? Like, it just kind of shines a light on like how uninteresting most stuff is now. That when you
Hmm.
say it's a movie that's unique, I'm like, oh, I want to see it now.
Yeah, it is. It's a movie that has a purpose, I guess. That has it
Mm-hmm.
cares about its characters. Like I can honestly say I've never seen anything like this, and I guess I think as I said, for A24 stuff, I'm usually partial to that anyways. But also when it comes to just the weirder types of stories, I know I'm gonna like it. I guess the only thing maybe for some people is maybe if you don't like this type of stuff, maybe it's just like way too out there and ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, once again, it's yeah, yeah, critically acclaimed pretty well, as you're saying, commercially as well.
Mm-hmm.
But like, granted, if you're not into this kind of movie, I suppose maybe you might not like it. But like, I would be hard pressed to find someone who can't enjoy this movie unless they just truly don't like sci-fi or I guess kung fu movies, I suppose. But they
You
do it
haven't
good.
met my father.
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, but yeah, it depends. You know, it's not for everyone, I suppose.
Yeah, no, like anything that's just unique or does something a bit different at the moment that isn't just like a heavy drama.
Hmm.
Because I know like everyone likes to tout the whole, oh, everything's either a Marvel or a DC movie or a
Sure.
franchise movie, and
Us
all
included.
that. Yeah, we've said it before, right? But like at the end of the day, those are kind of like action movies,
Yeah.
and it is, even if you can still find interesting dramas, you can still find interesting sci-fi things like that, right?
Hmm.
It's become a lot harder because of the superhero genre to find unique action movies.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's nice when one comes along that people are like, oh yeah, it's unique.
Hmm. Yeah, very, very much so. And it seems like, and that's the thing too, is with a lot of those, well, maybe not so much the DC side, but at least with the Marvel side, it's not even that I dislike them. I think, as we've talked about before, it's just very much kind of that middle of the road. Like, you just know what to expect at this point. Very little is going to surprise you. So for
3
me,
out of 5, the majority of them enjoyable. Move on to the next thing.
Exactly. Like, I think back to all the Marvel movies I've watched, and I can't say I had a horrible experience of any of them, but if am I going to go back and watch any of them? Very rarely, maybe one here and there, but like for the most part, not that often. I think of this movie and I go, I am definitely at some point going to rewatch this movie. Like, absolutely, I will. And it's just more. Even to be honest, even if a movie takes a risk and it's shit, I would rather have that attempt than more of the same, like 3 out of 5. Like, that's why, like, and you kind of get into the discussion of like the so bad it's good type of movies, and that's where that stuff like that kind of happens. So that's where I'm like, I'm fine with like very good movies or shitty movies as long as they're trying something different. And I think that's where, in this case, it ended up obviously being, as I'm talking, very good, which I'm happy about. But that's where I think it was a great movie. I guess the only maybe con I can think of really that I had was it sort of drags on a little bit towards the end. It kind of felt like this movie had 3 endings. Like it was ending at one point, this super overly dramatic, like like John Williams-esque score was starting to swell, and I'm like, okay, I guess this is the ending. And then like something else happened, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I thought that was going to be the ending, and then something else happened, and I'm like, okay. I think maybe it could have been, I guess, edited more towards the end to like have a more singular unifying sort of ending. But it's not even that those other endings were bad. It was just like you thought it was going to end like 3 times, and it just threw me off a little bit. But it wasn't bad or anything. It just was weird. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh wait, I can't believe I almost forgot to mention the best part. So I could not believe. Okay, I was watching the movie, and Michelle Yeoh's husband in the movie looked familiar, and I'm like, "Who is this guy?" Like, the actor, I've seen him before. His face looks familiar, but I'm like, I can't place him for some reason. And then halfway through the movie, it finally clicked, and I looked it up to confirm in case, just to make sure I was correct. But the guy who plays her husband is the actor from the Goonies. Data, like the little kid with the gadgets, or like from Indiana Jones, the little sidekick.
Oh, I've seen India. I've never seen the Goonies.
Okay, so the kid from Indiana Jones, then, who what's his name? I forget his name. He's like his sidekick, and was it Temple of Doom or something? I can't remember.
I can't.
Shit.
But he wears the baseball cap, doesn't he?
Yeah. That kid. But yeah, he was also in the Goonies as well, and he did a couple of those movies around the time. But apparently, he quit acting for like 20 years or something like that. I don't know if it was like a personal thing or he just had enough or whatever. And I think this is his first role, like kind of back in the industry again, or at least maybe his first bigger role. And I'm like, oh, it's him, because the face, I mean, obviously he's older, but like the face looked so familiar because I've seen Goonies 1,000 times, and it was him. And the best part is he does a phenomenal job. He kills it. Like, he's cracking me up half the time, but he's also like does the drama very well. And I'm assuming he had some stunt doubles for the kung fu stuff, but like for the parts that he was minorly doing some kung fu stuff, he killed it. So like, it was just so weird to see him, and for like the first role in like 20-30 years, or however long it's been since he quit acting, I guess, or came back into it. So that was just really funny to me. I just couldn't believe it. Trying to think, but yeah, other than that, I mean, like I said, big thumbs up. I would highly recommend highly recommend anyone to watch this movie. I'm glad I went into it fairly cold, and I don't think I revealed anything too crazy for this.
No,
but
I still have no idea really what this is about, and I'm
yeah,
happy with that. Yeah,
and that's the thing too, is like, I think as long as you don't look anything else into it and kind of go cold into it, you'll definitely very much enjoy it as well. But yeah, I'll say once again, I was just surprised at how much the various aspects really came to create this cohesive story, when at first you're like, what the fuck is happening? And they actually do, I think, tie it up pretty well at the end. So that's good. Highly recommend.
All right. So 1 thumbs down, 1 thumbs up, it sounds like.
There we go. We got some balance back.
Perfectly balanced.
Exactly, as it should be. So yeah, if you've tried out either playing the Live a Live or watching Everything Everywhere All at Once, definitely let us know what you think. And we'll talk about some more stuff next week. So in the meantime, leave some comments and make sure to comment and subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.
Bye.